Illum fl-istudio miegħi għandi koppja ta' awturi Taljana u Malti. Il-ktieb li se nitkellmu dwaru kitbitu hi u r-raġel introduċih. Ippubblikat 4 romanzi issa u anke xi novelli bit-Taljan. It-tieni ktieb tagħha, Eżerċizzji di Servizja e Soluzzjoni, rebaħ il-Premju Mondello Giovani u l-Premju Mondello Opera Italjana u nqaleb għal-Malti bħala Murġibek. Illum fl-istudio Irene Chias u Mark Vella u Fjuri tas-Sabbara, Fjuri tax-Xadina. Dal-waqt, f'Ħajjitna Ktieb. Nżemmilkom u nistedinkom għal programm ieħor Ħajjitna Ktieb, il-programm illi fih nitkellem ma' awturi, il-kodba tagħhom u nħobb ngħid dejjem ta' jispiċċa l-programm nkunu nafu xi ħaġa dwarhom it-tnejn. Iż-żewġ għax illum għandna it-tnejn, iż-żewġ mistiedna li għandi ġarajnihom is-sena li għaddiet meta kellhom il-ktieb tagħhom Eżerċizzji di Servizja e Soluzzjoni. U illum jirritornaw bi ktieb ieħor. L-ewwel nett ħan introduċi l-mistiedna mbagħad nitkellem dwar il-ktieb. Għandi Irene Chias u Mark Vella, il-koppja illi tawna l-aħħar darba dak il-ktieb li kien jismu Murġibek. Illum għandna ktieb ieħor Fjuri tas-Sabbara, Fjuri tax-Xadina li hija traduzzjoni ta' dana il-ktieb bil-Taljan huwa Fjuri d'Agave, Fjuri di Ximja. Narjomkom it-tnej, ma nafx nistax naqbduhom it-tnej, dak dina il-verżjoni Taljana u din hija il-verżjoni Maltija. U reġgħu din il-koppja etuna ktieb verament interessanti u intriganti wkoll issa tkunu tafu għaliex għax fih żewġ kodba prattikament żewġ sejjer, però ħan nibda naqra b'Irene l-ewwel. I'm starting with you, Irene. In your novel, Eżerċizzji di Servizja, etc., you had written about women subjected to historical violence and now being practiced on men instead.
Exactly.
Very sadistic. Yes. In Fjuri d'Agave.
Not enough, maybe. Not enough.
Mark, how do you cope with her barbs?
We are both ironic and we
agree on important things.
Yes, we agree on important.
Being
we've
feminist.
We've got a common politics and we've got a common irony too. So her barbs, my barbs, and we balance each other out. So.
Oh, okay. in Fjuri d'Agave and Fjuri di Ximja, Max, the book publisher, insists with the female author that she writes a novel for women. Set in Sicily. Sicily is your birthplace,
yes.
Right? Because they sell these kind of... You don't agree with that, but you write about it, sarcastically.
Yes, because there are several stereotypes put into question in the book. First, women writings and for women.
Yeah,
and this is the very first stereotype that the book addresses. And the other one is Sicily. All the stereotypes about Sicily that are used to sell, basically. That most of the times are irrespectful and false and archaic somehow.
So you think that the stereotypes for Sicilian women are not real or just made up or real?
Well, every stereotype can have a far base of truth or suggestion, but then it prevents a real evolution if we keep on, stressing the stereotype and relying on stereotypes to sell, basically.
Mark, you translated both novels. Was there anything in Fjuri tas-Sabbara which presented any difficulties in translation?
I mean, there are two different books when thinking about it as far as style is concerned, as you know. Murġibek had obviously diverse registers, you know, and languages. So there was the literature part, there was the medical part, you know, parts of the body and so on. You remember, you know, it's a book which has a variety of words. This one too, in a way, but it's a greater challenge, I think, for a translator because the language is much more controlled. It's much more, the word is more ricercata in a way. Ricercata in the sense that even as a translator, I have to go for the precise word as far as feelings are concerned and so on. And I think, for me, this is Irene's best book, in my opinion. Because even the language, the theme, and how she zones in on what she wants to write on, means that that language is encapsulated in very tight confines, and so the translator is forced to even move in that way. And then obviously there was, I mean, this is the most discussed about Irene's book, the second part, the surprising second part, where even the translator has to adapt to the surprising second part.
She's always smiling, I suppose, when you get to the second part.
Because many people got shocked.
Yes, I read the second part at the end of the second part 3 or 4 times to make sure that I had understood what was there. What was the reason that made you want to have this book translated? Was it a natural sequence, a natural...
We had translated Murġibek, and then we translated this. These were both thanks to the fund of the Malta Book Council.
Yes.
So first of all, we should thank the Malta Book Council, and even the fact that this fund helps unusual writings, at least for the Maltese panorama, come to the Maltese reader in the Maltese language. So that's already something. So the Maltese language becomes enriched, the Maltese literary panorama becomes enriched with different writings which we're not used to. I don't know, maybe it was a natural progression from Murġibek. This book also has that connection to our common identity as Maltese and Sicilian. So, like they have stereotypes about the man with the big moustache, with the coppola, and we have obviously our stereotypes even in our literature. Tar-raħli, bit-terħa,
with the cigar in his mouth.
And there are stereotypes which are part of our tradition, but as Irene said before, you cannot live just on this basic stereotype. We Maltese are more than that, and they Sicilians are more than that. And there were many things which I felt, you know, are similar to, especially even the agave Sabbara, which we have in our agricultural panorama, but which we don't know the word for when we see it, you know, so that's another thing.
In fact, that was my next question. How did you come to the name of the book? In Italian?
Yes.
In Italian,
and
is...
how did it mix with the Maltese version?
Yes.
It was the real thing, obviously.
No, agave is... But yes. Agave is that... agave is called Sabbara, but it's also called agave. So when I researched even in botanical, horticultural, you know, websites and so on, there's the agave, there's the Sabbara, you know, there might be variants of the same thing.
And also, it's curious that in the book we mentioned the Sicilian Sabbara, the Sicilian word for agave, which in Italian is agave, is Sabbara.
The bonobo monkeys, they figure a lot in the story. What is, in what context, first of all? I'm trying to get a bit of the story now out, bit by bit.
The bonobo for Adelaide, who is the main character, are a sort of utopian, represent an utopian society where female solidarity allows a peaceful living for all the group.
This is what the bonobo monkeys practice, basically.
Yes. They are apes very strictly related to chimpanzee and then also to us. But they have this specific factor that differentiates them from the chimpanzee, which is this peaceful society, a matriarchal society, basically.
Now, there also in the story, you can both answer this, there are mentions of Philip King's The Man in the High Castle, which I really like. Lorena Bobbitt, you mention also Rodney King and O.J. Simpson. How do they figure in the plot?
Well, they are examples of inevitability of bad things happening when you don't address problems, the problems of the present. So Rodney King, I refer to Rodney King before the 2020 when the other accident in the US happening
yes.
with also black community rebelling against abuse, police abuse. And it is something that is going to propose and repropose itself all over again if we don't address the problem at the very core.
And the novel has that element too that I think it's the strength of the novel and part of the architecture of the novel, that you've got Max who tells her to write a romantic story which sells about Sicilian women and so on. But then in the meantime she meets another character, Genova, who's this anarchist, strange woman. And there the political themes start coming out. So from this village, this typical village in the middle of nowhere in Sicily, you get these important themes, these political themes. They're not only feminist, they are international, they're global, they're geopolitical themes, which even give the political architecture of the novel, notwithstanding that it is that Adelaide is trying to write this romantic story about love and etc. So she's trying to write a telenovela type of thing. But obviously she's writing more of an apocalyptic, dystopian novel, and that's why Philip K. Dick is...
Now, can we have a bit of a synopsis of the whole story? You wouldn't want to reveal the second part, I suppose.
Well, no.
The second part is, in Italian, I would say the chicca, maybe, the
Yes,
gem that is...
Yes, so
the fictional twist that gives a new light.
Let's discuss the first part. Tell us a bit about... And I think we have a couple of pictures about the village.
Sant'Angelo Muxaro.
Sant'Angelo Muxaro.
Then the fictional
here we go.
correspondent
You
of...
have been here, I take it.
Yes.
Did you go because you wanted to write the novel there? Or?
No, we went because...
I wrote the novel before because I had been there already.
It's a lovely place.
And then we happened to be there, and I started the translation there. I said, what better place to start the translation there? You obviously know the place, and there was even a part about when Adelaide goes to Rocca Muxaro, which is the fictional equivalent of this place, and then she looks at the piazza, and I was in the apartment where Adelaide supposedly went, so I was living the novel, so it was a perfect place for translation. It was a translator's heaven when you think about it, because you are with the subject.
It's true. And so let's go with the first part.
So
Max, we start with.
Max is the literary agent that asks Adelaide Dattilo, who is a science fiction writer mainly, but she's not very successful. As a writer. So he asks her, he tells her, you're good at writing, etc., but don't write this strange stuff. You're a woman, write women things, and you're Sicilian, write Sicilian things, set them in Sicily in a very, romantic and stereotypical way. And then she's got plenty of doubts about what does it mean with women fiction. And then I said, however, I'm going to try, let's see. And so she moves there at her grandmother's house. And she starts she starts writing, but on another level, she starts meeting people from there, realizing how hard life in inner center of Sicily, the hinterland, can be. without resources, without public services of any kind. So there is sort of, she realized that she's a science fiction writer, so is a dystopian writer, speculative fiction writer, and she realizes how this dystopian reality is there, is in the village, not so different than her fiction, her writing.
You go also into a bit of the political part of Sicily, mentioning Gela and
yes,
the problems is that part of your personal feeling about the whole Sicilian society as such?
Well, in Sicily, as all over the world now,
yes.
Political issues are very closely related to environmental issues. So, yes, this is my feeling, that the lack of respect for the environment is a reflection of vicious policies, but is also going to have very hard consequences on the population.
I want to make sure that maybe our viewers think that this is a political thing and maybe it doesn't interest them. No, this is a whole...
No, it's very funny too,
It is an intermingling of ideas, of the way Sicilian women are pictured, and there are two types I want to talk about. The prologue, this is our prologue, but then they have the last 20 pages, the famous 20 pages. And people are saying, what about these 20 pages? That will have to wait until you read the book. But what about the first part is also divided into two parts.
Yes, there are two levels. What's happening to the main character, to Adelaide at Sant'Angelo Muxaro, and then her writing, the story she writes on a character whose name is very similar to hers, her own name. So she calls her Adelasia just to meet a request, Max's request, because they have to think that you write about yourself. So she called this character Adelasia, and there are these two levels of the narrative that are, at the beginning, they are very far from each other somehow. And then it's too strong, the political feeling of Adelaide. So she moves Adelasia until they merge somehow, Adelaide and Adelasia. So they get to look to resemble each other more and more. And
then there is this enigma of when she finds the diary.
Yes, within Adelaide's fiction, there is Adelasia who's looking for some clue about her family past, and she found the diary of an aunt. But then it's part of the mystery that is going to be solved.
Again, we stop there.
Yes.
As this is where we stop with that book. So that we leave the door of mystery of why they have to wait for the last 20 pages to really understand more and more and more. But I'd like to talk about, you brought a book, another book.
Yes, my last book that was published this year in July. It's Rocchesante, published by Laurana, like Fiore d'Agave e Fiore di Scimmia was. It's Rocchesante. It's a different
fictional village. It's like Roccamusciaro, but another type of village.
Another type of village consisting of three hills. Each hill intercepts a specific social and cultural humanity somehow. So. It's something. It's a metaphor of living and dying, life and death, but it's something I wrote during the pandemic. So I felt...
It's amazing how many people have written during the pandemic. The pandemic has served to write a multitude of books. So you've chosen your time quite well. How to relax.
I was in Gozo while writing this one.
You know that in Gozo, the emblem of Gozo is 3 hills.
Yes.
Did you know that?
True.
No,
That's,
I didn't know
that's
that.
an interesting connection.
You didn't tell me. I didn't know. I didn't
Okay,
know.
we'll use it for our for future marketing if we translate it. Thanks for the tip, John.
Yes, you can write in the front, to John.
Yes, to John
who let us know about the 3 hills.
We reminded Mark about the 3 hills.
And do you plan to translate that too?
Who knows? I'm in a different...
I can look at her faces.
Yes.
Yes, you're going to translate it.
Yes, I'm in a different work situation where I have less time to translate. So, but anyway, then the temptation comes, you know, sometimes when you're reading it and you start translating it in your mind, you say, why not translate? So you never know.
But there is something else going on?
Which one of the 2?
She still writes.
Yes,
Yeah.
She still writes a lot, and I think
I keep on writing. It's I want to quit, but
there are
I
many
can manage
libri
at the
nel
moment,
cassetto,
so.
as we say, you know, and there are some interesting
So-
things which I read, you know, as maybe the first reader, and I'm very interested in their development. So Irene is a writer through and through.
Unfortunately, they're making me signs that the time is up. So I have to thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Maybe next year, if we're all still here, we'll be talking about another book. And I found this very interesting, obviously, because I wouldn't be... I read part of it 2, 3 times, and I'm translating
The Shadina
now.
part.
Yes. Li kont qed nitkellem mal-mistiedna tagħna llum, illi l-għonet il-ktieb l-aħħar wieħed illi konna qed nitkellmu dwaru, Irene Chias li kitbet il-ktieb Fjura tas-Sabbara, Fjura tax-Xadina, li traduzzjoni mbagħad maqlub għall-Malti minn Mark Vella, incidentalment huma koppja, siet una koppja raġel u mara, meta forsi kollhom xi jgħidu wieħed imur jikteb għall-kwiet. I don't know whether you understand.
When we argue, one goes to write,
One goes to write, one goes to
translate.
translate. And then it all depends on the mood he is. He makes a bad translation and makes you angry
That's a risk, yes.
until he fixes everything again. Rajna l-ktieb ukoll il-ġdid li kellna. It's in print.
Yes, it's
so they can also have it in Italian at the moment. In Italian at the moment. Naħseb li ħadtu gost, ħadd gost jien nitkellem għad din għall-koppja, li ħadd gost s-sena li għaddiet, ħadd gost ħafna dis-sena bl-idejat ta' Irene u l-kidba ta' Mark li jagħmlu koppja verament interessanti ferm għal dik li hija il-kidba li aħna nistgħu naraw. Mela, wasanna biex intemmu dan il-programm. Thank you once again. Thank you to everybody. Grazzi lil kull min ta' semu għal dan il-programm, produzzjoni, direzzjoni, u lilkom partikolarment illi dentu tisimaw u titħajru biex tixtru taqraw dawn il-kodba. Minnaħa tiegħi, minnaħa tal-mistiedna tiegħi, grazzi u saħħa.